You're tearing up now, but like now that it's over, that's when I'm going to see this other side to you. It's just so odd.
Because I didn't cry in front of you before. Like, I don't.
You don't have to cry in front of me, but it's like.
Yeah, stop. Hey y'all, it's your captain for all things creative, coming at you with the Married at First Sight Season 20, episode 11 through 15 review. Basically an overview of all the major moments from the last drop in my last video. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're returning, thank you for rocking with us, because we cannot rock out without talking about Courtney and Nick. They're the first couple that I'll talk about, and their major highlights obviously involve them calling it quits finally, for the love of all that is good and nice. Basically, the experts, I think, saw Courtney in real time being so negative with Nick when he was not giving her that energy at all, and cursing and doing the most to degrade him. And they're like, listen, can y'all end it? And I'm glad they both said yes. In the past, the experts would really dry beg the couples to stay together through anything. And just the fact that they called it was nice. So shout out to them. The next most problematic couple that we have to talk about, Mecca and Beljoli. I thought that Mecca would act right, but he can't help but go back to what his father taught him, which is being negative Nancy as well, and tearing down the one person that actually has his back. Because I think what he has seen, especially when you look back to his wedding day, with his father talking about how he's ashy and trying to emasculate him, telling him like the WNBA stories, whatever, in front of people, is that when it's time to be vulnerable and open up, it seems like the pattern that his father taught him is to make jokes and degrade the people around you to make yourself feel better. And it's just like, he's doing that to Beljoli, and I don't like it. And especially that preview where he's, I think, telling the men that he wants her to get breast implants. Like, it's going from worse to worser, and I don't like it for Beljoli. And I'm glad that she's starting to see that she needs to stand up for herself more and draw a line in the sand with Mecca, especially when, unprovoked, at that dinner, he was talking about how he didn't think that Beljoli was pretty enough for him. And apparently one of his exes came out online, and she was a basketball player who's Caucasian, so maybe Beljoli really isn't his type. But at the end of the day, you do not want to get into these situations where you see this group of people that's like, like tearing you down and whatnot. This one girl has your back, and you're gonna join in on like bringing her down and giving her low self-esteem. And it's so apparent that Mecca can't even handle the slightest bit of what he's given to Beljoli, because when the group and the experts told him he was being performative, this man fell out for days, maybe even a full week. And then he went straight to, attacking Beljoli and attacking the other couples too, when, he was having a lot to say about like Felipe and other people. And I was just like, Mecca, you cannot be having this kind of double standard, because you know that you can't even take what you dish out. And when other people say the littlest thing to you, you fold up in your head. So why don't you think that your wife would be offended, by those things that you're saying? It's giving that, again, he's following the patterns of his father, and he might be a little red pill. I don't know. So we shall see what happens with them. But I hope Beljoli stands up for herself. And I kind of want her to say no at the end of this, because Becca's going too far, and he's too sensitive to be doing what he's doing to Beljoli. Now, speaking of somebody who also takes things too far, and who also has some kind of situation with his family that Sean called out. We're going to talk about Adam and Marissa now, because the way Adam was doing all those shenanigans on the date, like shotgun in the water, making Marissa do push-ups over the hot tub on a date. It's like he does seem like he's either playing a character or he's doing extremes to cope with something that he's not talking about. Because I think Sean really had his number correct when he was talking about, you know, the way Adam speaks to kind of like minimize and gloss over everything. But I was talking about vibes and people being cooked. Like, to be honest, I thought that he was using slang that I associated with African American youth. And Sean very eloquently was like, you know, do your parents speak the way you do? And do you think you're going to speak the way you do, you know, in a few years? Like, whose language and persona are you trying to put on right now? If, you know, there are better words you can use and clearer words you can use, especially at this late stage in the game when it's almost decision day, to talk about your relationship other than vibes and people being cooked. And Adam got so offended, and Marissa was having his back like we knew she would, because she just follows Adam's lead. But Adam didn't really have a correct response to what Sean was saying, because first he thought Sean was just talking about IQ and intelligence. And Caitlyn, obviously, who also doesn't have emotional intelligence, also brought it back there too. But Sean was actually addressing some things that I thought about too. It's like, what is the persona? He always has the loud outfits, using the AAVE, if you ask me, and always, again, speaking in a very shallow way about his experiences, to the point that the experts called him on it too. And Marissa kind of called him on, but she kind of just got dragged back into his cycle of pickleball and everything being cooked, and she was defending him like she herself didn't ask him to go deeper. So I don't know what's wrong with them, but Adam could not wait to try to speak negatively on Nikki and Sean when he was in alley. And it is giving like he'd rather lash out than do introspection, because at the end of the day, Sean asked a question and he moved on. Sean don't care about Adam like that, but Adam was bothered. You could tell. And he got to do some soul searching to figure out why. And speaking of somebody else who was bothered this last drop, Felipe, oh, he was getting the blues from everybody else. Like I said, even Mecca tore into him about basically wanting to go back to the streets and being indecisive. And just the fact that he wanted Tori to have his back more was interesting, because, again, he was sitting there embarrassing this woman, talking about how he likes sleeping with other people and he be looking for reasons to try to leave the relationship. And Tori took it on the chin and she didn't say anything. And he was happy when she wasn't saying anything about all the comments, you know, that was disrespecting her. But then, you know, I expected her to pipe up suddenly and magically when the whole group was even tired of his BS. So Felipe can't have it both ways. And at the end of the day, I do think Tori's also treating Felipe with kid gloves, because why is she talking about how she don't know if he could take care of her dogs? It's like, girl, the real conversation is asking Felipe if he's going to be a dog that you're going to have to, you know, deal with. So both of them, I think, are going along to get along right now, because Felipe is now singing a tune like, oh, you know, I know I choose Tori now just because the experts and the whole group is getting on him. So I think it's kind of like a peer pressure kind of thing. But left to his own devices, it does seem like he wants to go back to the streets, or he has a strong desire that keeps creeping up to go back to the streets. And Tori looks like she's through with him. So she's playing it nice, but I think she's going to say no on decision day. And even if Felipe says yes on the decision day, I still think his heart is saying yes to the streets. Speaking of another couple who maybe should say no on decision day, Devin and Caitlyn, because, oh my gosh, even though Courtney is no longer there being mean, Caitlyn was her sister in misery, because she takes any chance she can to jump down Devin's throat. Like, even at the dinner, you know, where he was talking about needs not getting met and whatnot, Caitlyn was quick to just snap down on him. And it does seem like she does want him to be a lesser version of himself, or the self that she can tolerate. And she does not want Devin or all of Devin. She likes having control over her life clearly, which is why, she always wants her space and her time, things on her own terms. And she's very mean and negative to Devin whenever any of his personality or feelings or thoughts go outside of that cookie cutter mold of what she wants and can tolerate in her life. And that's not how marriage works. So these two definitely need to say no. I think Devin is twisting himself into a pretzel to fit into the mold that Caitlyn, I guess, can handle of him. But he's not going to do that for much longer. So they should say no on decision day for sure. Now, Sean and Nikki are actually doing better than a lot of the other couples. And it's so interesting how there are couples who are struggling with like far worse issues that look down on them, but they actually put in the work to, communicate. And I'm starting to believe, Nikki, that she is a sapiosexual because seeing the way she's slowly grown in attraction to Sean and then letting him in more and more. And they even did something physical that has Sean dancing and stuff and singing. Makes it seem like they do have a lot of compatibility that the experts started to see from the beginning. I do think that Nikki's still hiding Sean. Just the fact that she won't let him, talk to her family does make it seem like she was either talking bad about him behind his back or wanted to treat him like a sneaky link, like I said before. But if she's willing to let him, see her family, then it could be a sign that they might actually, have a scenario where she says yes on decision day. Now, Sean, his motivations were sketchy a lot of the seasons. A lot of times it seems like he just wanted to have relations. Now he came out with a book, so it's a little interesting that, he's trying to tell people, what to do with relationships when, he has struggled so clearly on the show. So I don't know if it's good marketing per se. But again, I do think he did have a lot of good insights when talking to the other couples, especially, Marissa and her vibe she got going on over there. But at the end of the day, I don't know. It didn't sit well with me when Sean was walking around their apartment talking about we are one. It's almost like I know that sometimes they forget cameras is there, but at the end of the day, they know they're being filmed. So there's a little small part of me that feels like even though Nikki wanted to keep everything quiet, he wanted to make sure that it was documented somehow that, he had gotten some, which is why he walked out of the room, showing that he had been, undressed around her and then saying, we are one. Like, I don't know. That scene rubbed me the wrong way. Some people may see it as innocent, but I don't think so. I think Sean was bragging in a way. And even the way he came to that group dinner, like, like I said, calling people to the carpet. Usually he's quiet at the dinners playing victim, but this time he had a little pep in his step. So I think he was proud of being able, to cross that physical threshold with Nikki. So I think he does like her, but sometimes I wonder how much of, the motivations are, about his ego and like selling his book now and all that kind of stuff. But these two, I think, are one of the better couples on the show, even though the other couples look down on them. So go ahead, Sean and Nikki. Whether you stay together or not, y'all have been the main entertainment for me. And I'm glad to see that y'all get along, even in spite of the times where, y'all have had y'all arguments. There does seem to be something there. And last but not least, Cameron and Michelle. Now, even though I still think these two will say yes on decision day, I did not like how negative they are about the other couples. It came out with Michelle, first when she was calling Mecca performative. But Cameron talking about that whole side of the table should be married. Even if he thinks that, this is not, like some kind of show where other couples win, other couples lose. It's like people are along for the experience, and sometimes the experience ends in marriage, and sometimes it doesn't. For him to be judging the other couples like that, it's not par for the course. Like usually in Married at First Sight, the couples are very supportive of each other. Even seasons where the people was cheating with, other people's, fiance and stuff, they were still friends. They didn't run down on each other as much. But just the way that Michelle first and then now Cameron seems comfortable judging the other couples and looking down on them, it does rub me the wrong way. So even though I do think they're going to say yes, I think part of their bond is feeling superior to the other couples and looking down on them. And it does seem that, Cameron also has some mental health struggles, which, Michelle has helped him out of. But I think maybe part of how Cameron doesn't, feel as down on himself is when he starts to, take whatever negative feelings he has out on others. And that's not healthy. He needs to find healthier ways, to deal with whatever he's going through. And I don't like how, again, they sat there and basically disrespected half of their castmates by telling them that they didn't, think their relationships were good. Whether it was true or not, or whether it's their opinion or not, there is negativity and a gap about kindness that, is missing with them. And if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. And Cameron, he could have found a better way to express whatever he was feeling other than, again, just like being really disrespectful to the other couples. But we shall see. I think, again, these two probably will say yes on decision day. But I think the other couples are going to start to pick up on the judgment and the negativity even more. Mecca and Beljolie kind of called Michelle out a little bit, but I could see people having something to say to Cameron at this couples retreat, which I think is going to be very fun to watch. A lot of stuff goes down at the couples retreat. My favorite couples retreat was one with Hurricane K when she tore up them people's planes. Oh, that was a good season. But yeah, let's see what this retreat will give, and say how you feel about the season so far, your retreat predictions or your decision day predictions. And remember, you're the master of your fate and the captain of your soul. Bye.